The drive to work was routine. Same road, same red lights, same morning news radio humming in the background. They were talking about the weather, a stalled bill in Congress, a school district vote somewhere out west. I wasn't really listening. Then the anchor said something that didn't fit.
Later this afternoon, a congressional oversight hearing is scheduled to examine new testimony related to unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, according to defense and intelligence officials.
He didn't stop, didn't explain, just moved on. I almost missed it. They didn't say aliens. They never do. Just oversight, testimony, classified material, words that sound procedural, safe. By the time I realized I'd turned the volume up, the anchor was already reading traffic updates. The parking lot was full, people walking in with coffee, laughing, complaining about the cold. No one looked like they'd just heard anything unusual. I wondered if anyone else even noticed. The hearing was scheduled for later that afternoon. I told myself I'd catch a recap after work. That was before every channel started saying the same thing. I'd heard the stories before. Roswell, Area 51. Grainy videos passed around online every few years. People always acted like it was the most important question in the world. Are we alone? I never understood the obsession. We had wars, supply shortages, a world that already felt stretched thin. If something out there wanted to come here, I figured we'd know. And if it didn't, then it didn't matter. There were bigger problems to worry about than aliens. By the time I pulled into the lot, the thought was already fading. I shut the car off. Work was work. Aliens were someone else's problem. I'd heard the testimonies before. Former pilots, intelligence officers, long interviews clipped into podcasts and shared around like proof. Every few years there was another congressional hearing, another sworn statement, another person claiming they'd seen something they couldn't explain. It always sounded exaggerated. If even half of it were true, there would be evidence you couldn't ignore. In an age where everything is tracked, satellites, sensors, cameras in every pocket, something real wouldn't stay hidden this long. Science has a way of showing itself eventually, and it hadn't. Still, it wasn't that simple. I've always believed there has to be other life out there. The universe is too large, too old, too full of possibilities for this to be it. And some of the stories, they didn't sound like attention-seeking. They sounded careful, restricted, like people choosing their words. I didn't believe the conclusions, but it was getting harder to dismiss the testimonies entirely. I stepped into my office, shut the door behind me, and set my coffee down next to the keyboard. The desk looked the same as it always did. Monitors waking up, reports loading, spreadsheets filling the screen. I opened a browser and pulled up a few tabs. The same podcasts I cycled through when the work got repetitive. News, economics, a couple voices I didn't always agree with. One title stood out: UAP Disclosure. The host was a bit off his rocker, always had been, the kind of guy who followed theories further than most people were comfortable with. Still, he'd been right more than once, about things that weren't supposed to matter until they did. I hovered over the mouse for a moment, then clicked play. A broken clock is right twice a day.
All right, let's talk about the hearing this afternoon. Not the version you'll hear on cable news, the real one. They're calling it another oversight session. They always do. Same language, same framing, but the timing matters. This isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening after years of quiet admissions, leaked documents, and testimony from people who don't need the attention. Pilots, engineers, intelligence officers who already retired with pensions. You don't risk your reputation for a story like this unless you've been sitting on it for a long time. Now let's address the elephant in the room, Majestic 12. If you've never heard of it, that's not an accident. Back in the late 1940s, following multiple recovery events, a classified working group was formed outside normal government oversight. Not elected, not accountable. Scientists, military leadership, and intelligence officials. Their job wasn't to investigate whether non-human intelligence existed. Their job was to manage contact. And before you roll your eyes, ask yourself something. Why has the government quietly changed its language over the last decade? From UFOs to UAPs to non-human intelligence. That's not random. That's preparation. Here's what most people don't want to accept. Disclosure doesn't look like ships over cities. It looks like paperwork, committees, gradual admissions. Because panic isn't controlled through secrecy anymore. It's controlled through normalization. And today isn't about proving aliens exist. It's about admitting something else. They've known, they've interacted. And the American public is finally being told. Not because the truth can't be hidden anymore, but because it's no longer useful to hide it. This is the day the story changes. You don't have to believe me. Just listen carefully to what they say and what they don't.
I paused the spreadsheet. The guy always talked like this. Confident, certain, connecting dots that probably weren't there. It was interesting, entertaining even. But I'd heard versions of this before. If something that big were real, there would be proof you couldn't ignore. Still, I let the podcast keep playing. Probably nothing would happen. But I was curious what they'd say at the hearing. I continued to listen in the background while answering emails from yesterday.
I'm going to be very clear about something today. This hearing isn't happening because the government suddenly decided to be transparent. It's happening because disclosure is coming either way, and they want to be the ones framing it. When institutions know something is inevitable, they don't fight it anymore. They manage it. There are people inside government who have known for decades that non-human intelligence exists. Not theories, not speculation. Contact, limited, controlled, quiet. And now that knowledge can't stay compartmentalized, so what you're going to see today isn't the truth. It's a version of it. Carefully timed, carefully worded. Enough to shock you, but not enough to make you panic. That's why I'm saying this now. If you're listening to this at work, consider going home early. Be with your family. Not because something dramatic is going to happen today, but because once the narrative shifts, it doesn't shift back. History doesn't always announce itself with sirens. Sometimes it shows up as a press conference. Sometimes it sounds boring. And sometimes, by the time people realize what changed, it's already settled in. Watch how they talk. Listen to what they avoid. And remember, this isn't about aliens. It's about control. And today is the day the public is allowed to know just enough.
I actually laughed under my breath. Go home early? In the middle of a workday? It sounded ridiculous. But the thought lingered. I'd done it before. Not dramatically. Not in a rush. Just quietly. Big global conflicts. Major presidential announcements scheduled. I'd wrapped things up an hour or two early. Slipped out without drawing attention. Most of the time, nothing came of it. And I knew that. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't obsessed. I like to think I was level-headed. Still, as a prepper, I'd learned that instinct mattered, even when logic said it probably didn't. Sometimes caution wasn't about danger. It was about timing. This felt like one of those moments. I stared back at the spreadsheet, numbers blurring together. Why today? If disclosure was coming, why now? What would really happen? Probably nothing. but it didn't sit right. The hearing was scheduled for 4 o'clock Eastern. I glanced at the time in the corner of the screen. If I left around 3:30, I'd be home in time. No rushing, no explanations. Just early enough to blend in with everyone else who had already checked out for the day. I told myself I was overthinking it. I always did. Still, I'd learned not to ignore that feeling completely. When something big was scheduled, something that felt off, I didn't like being stuck somewhere I couldn't leave on my own terms. 3:30 wasn't running away. It was just being available. I saved my work, closed a few tabs, and waited for the clock to catch up. Whatever this was, I wanted to be home when it happened. The rest of the workday passed without much thought. Every once in a while it drifted back into my head. Fragments from old UAP podcasts. Interviews I'd half listened to years ago. Then I'd shake it off and fall back into spreadsheets and reports. I prepared for wars, for supply disruptions, for power outages and social unrest. Not aliens. That thought alone was enough to pull me back into work mode. At 3:30, I packed up. I didn't talk much that day. It was a Monday. Everyone either trying to get a jump start or still catching up from the week before. No one was paying attention. Nothing felt off. The world just kept going. I pulled into the driveway a few minutes before 4. Inside, my wife was in the kitchen, making a snack for the boys. 8, 6, and 4. The youngest came running toward me the second I walked in and wrapped his arms around my legs like it was the best part of his day. She looked over her shoulder. Home early? I hesitated for half a second, then told her work was slow and people were cutting out a little early. It wasn't unusual. It wasn't even much of a lie. Still, I didn't like it. I didn't want to explain that I'd come home because of a congressional hearing about unidentified aerial phenomena. Saying it out loud made it sound ridiculous. She was a rational person. Always had been. She kept me grounded when my preparedness instincts pushed too far. If she told me I was going down the rabbit hole, I listened. She was my balance, my ground. I wasn't ready to test that over something that might turn out to be nothing at all. The TV was on in the living room, low volume, more habit than attention. I could see it from the kitchen while my wife finished snacks for the boys. The anchor was talking about markets, scrolling graphics, sliding along the bottom of the screen. Then the tone changed. The anchor stopped mid-sentence.
We're going to interrupt our coverage for breaking news.
The words cut through the room in a way everything else hadn't.
The White House has just announced that the president will address the nation in moments. This is an unscheduled statement scheduled for 4 p.m. Eastern Time. No details have been released.
My wife turned toward the television. The boys didn't notice. The youngest was still talking about something he'd built on the floor. 4 o'clock. The screen shifted to a wide shot of the White House. No music, no graphics, just a quiet countdown in the corner. The room felt smaller. Then the feed changed.
My fellow American, this afternoon, I want to speak to you directly and transparently about a matter that has been the subject of public interest, speculation, and recent congressional inquiry. Over the past several decades, the United States government, along with international partners, has investigated phenomena that could not be readily identified or explained using known technology. Today, I am confirming that some of these encounters involved what we now assess to be non-human intelligence.
The words landed without emphasis. No pause. No reaction shot.
These assessments are based on data collected across multiple administrations, corroborated by military sensors, scientific analysis, and first-hand testimony. I want to be clear, this does not represent a sudden discovery. It represents the responsible acknowledgement of information that has evolved over time. Limited interactions have occurred. At no point has there been evidence of hostile intent toward humanity. There is no indication of an immediate threat to public safety.
The camera didn't move.
For decades, this information was closely held due to national security considerations, technological uncertainty, and the potential for widespread disruption. We now believe the American people deserve a greater degree of transparency. This disclosure will be measured, it will be responsible, and it will continue. In the coming weeks, additional information will be released through appropriate scientific and governmental channels. I ask for calm. I ask for patience. And I ask for trust in the institutions tasked with navigating this moment. We are not alone, and we are not unprepared. Thank you, may God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
The screen cut to the White House seal. No questions, no commentary, just silence. The boys were still playing on the floor. My wife hadn't said anything yet. I realized my hands were clenched at my sides. The podcast voice echoed back in my head. They won't tell you everything. They'll tell you just enough. And for the first time all day, I didn't feel foolish for leaving work early. The silence didn't last long. The screen shifted back to the studio. Same anchor, same desk. But the tone was different now. Careful, almost restrained.
You've just heard the President of the United States confirm the existence of what he described as non-human intelligence.
The anchor paused, like the words needed time to settle.
To be clear, no details were provided beyond that statement. There were no visuals, no timelines, and no clarification on what limited interactions means.
Graphics began to appear behind them. Still images. Bullet points pulled directly from the speech. Non-human intelligence. No immediate threat. No hostile intent. More information to come.
Officials emphasize that there is no cause for alarm.
Another pause.
We are reaching out now to defense analysts, former intelligence officials, and members of Congress for reaction.
The anchor looked down briefly, then back up.
At this time, no questions are being taken by the White House.
A split screen appeared. Another anchor. Different network. Same words.
This appears to be the most significant acknowledgement of unexplained phenomena in modern history. Again, we want to stress there is no indication of danger. We are still trying to understand what this means.
They all sounded like that. Careful. Measured, repeating the same phrases. No one speculated, no one joked, no one smiled. My phone buzzed on the counter, then again and again. News alerts, group texts lighting up without context. Did you see that? Is this real? What does non-human intelligence even mean? I didn't answer. The boys were still on the floor, unaware. The youngest was laughing at something only he understood. On the TV, an analyst was brought in.
We need to be cautious here. The language matters. This isn't confirmation of aliens as people imagine them. It's a reframing.
Another one nodded.
What's notable is what wasn't said. No denial of prior contact. No explanation of how long this has been known. And no indication of who else may be involved.
They talked in circles, because that was all they could do. I realized no one was asking why now. Not yet. The anchors kept saying the same thing.
This is a developing story, and we will bring you updates as we learn more.
But nothing new came. Just the same words, repeated across every channel. And for the first time, it felt like the news wasn't explaining the world anymore. It was stalling. The boys drifted out of the room, one by one. Homework, toys, bath time. Normal end-of-day chaos thinning out. The TV volume dropped. My wife leaned against the counter, arms crossed, eyes still on the screen. "So," she said finally, "that was unexpected." I nodded. "Yeah." She waited like she always did, letting me talk if I wanted to, not pushing. "I don't know what it means yet," I said, and I meant it. They didn't really say anything. She tilted her head, but they said enough. I exhaled slowly. Enough to make people uneasy, not enough to explain it. She looked at me then, really looked. "You came home early for this?" I hesitated, just a second. "Yeah." She didn't react, no eye roll, no comment. "That podcast guy," she said. "The one you listen to sometimes. This sounds like something he'd talk about." "Yeah," I said. "It does." She was quiet for a moment. "Do you think this is something we need to worry about?" I thought about the question before answering. "No," I said. "Not like that." She nodded. "Good." Then softer. "But you're thinking." I smiled a little. "I always am." Later, after the house settled, I stood in the hallway and listened. Dishwasher humming, water running upstairs, familiar sounds. And without any conscious decision, my brain started moving. Not fear, not urgency, just inventory. Food, water, power. Nothing different, nothing new. I wasn't preparing for aliens. I was preparing for people. Announcements like that don't cause danger on their own. Reactions do. I checked the weather out of habit. Clear. Nothing unusual. Phones charged. Doors locked. Normal stuff. No rush. No checklist. Just awareness. Whatever this turned into, it wouldn't happen tonight. And if it did, panic wouldn't help. I turned off the lights and went upstairs. Tomorrow would tell us more.